Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om.
Hey everyone, very warm welcome. So great that you're tuning into this Vedic Essence podcast, in which we will explore the wisdom of the sages of ancient India. So in our last podcast, we looked at the topic yoga, how yoga is so holistic because it encompasses every aspect of our lives. And next to that, we saw that it isn't science, actually. It's a path that we walk by our own experimentation. And we also saw that the word yoga means connection. So those were the most important points of the last podcast. And so yoga is actually at the basis of all schools of thoughts, philosophy and spirituality. And all of these schools, they came about because of the questions that arose within us. Or actually not within us, maybe we're not that deep thinkers, but in the minds of these sages that already had a sort of higher consciousness. So they found some mysteries in life, some secrets, but also problems and inconveniences that they didn't know how to handle. And that is how philosophy actually existed, from asking questions and trying to find solutions for the problems of life. So some of these problems was like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing here? How do we achieve happiness? Why are we suffering? Why do good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people? What is this planet hanging in the universe? Do we have a free will? What happens after death? Right? So all these different questions, they keep the minds of these great thinkers busy already for a long time. And there are so many volumes of books written on these issues. But actually the most important question throughout the ages was, who am I? Who am I really? Deep down. And now maybe we have some superficial answers of who I am. Yeah, I have a name. I'm born here and there. These are my parents. That is me. But if you go a little bit beyond, you know, or you find that there's something beyond the I am this and that and that. You know, when we start as a kid, we are sort of a clean sheet, a completely blank page, you can say. And then we start to identify ourselves with things. And it starts with the very name that we get from our parents. At first, this name is nothing to us. We don't have any connection with that. We just think, some sounds. You hear some sounds. Just like they say every other word, they say this sound. But then they say this sound awfully a lot, so you're beginning to recognize that word and react to that word. And then you see that every time you react to that word, you get a nice response and they laugh. And so slowly you begin to identify that, yeah, that is something that belongs to me, that I have to do something when I hear that name. That name means me. And then later you begin to identify with, you suddenly discover, what? I'm a boy, or I'm a girl, or I'm this or that. And you identify with your gender. And then even later you begin to identify with your nationality, with, your sexuality, with your likes and your dislikes, with what is your pleasure or pain, or what is your past. And we begin to identify with all these different things, and that clean sheet of paper is slowly being written. But is that really me? Do I really have a connection with these things? When I look, for instance, at a country, yes, it has a certain culture, but a country is just a line that is drawn on a piece of paper or on the ground, and then they say, now this means you're Dutch, or that means that you're German. But actually it's just land. and the whole world is the same land, but we divided it in things. But it's just a myth in our head. Similarly, money. Money only exists because we all believe that money has value. Actually, money is just a piece of paper. But because everyone in the whole world accepts that piece of paper to mean something, that is why we believe it. And so all these things that I have identified myself with, are they really me? Or are they just like the myth of my nationality or like the myth of money? There's a very nice story that shows this to us. It's the story of a very wealthy young businessman. He was still living with his parents. His dad was a millionaire. And one day they're living in South America. So he thought, let me take the car. I'll go out for a nice hiking for a few days. Just alone. I don't want to have anything to do with these business suits and these interviews or whatever. No, I want to be by myself with my car going out. So he went and he didn't tell his dad where he was going. He said, yeah, you'll see me in 4 days. Don't worry about me. So he went in his car and he was driving really fast, through these small roads that, go twirling through the mountains, until suddenly some animal sprang in front of his car. So he just, has to pull his steering wheel. And actually what's happening, he falls off the cliff with his car. So his car tumbling, until in the end, he is completely unconscious, laying in his car down in the valley. And when he wakes up, he finds himself in some, hut, some small hut. It's very smoky, there's fire next to him. He's all naked. And he's like, what is this, And he tries to think, like, what am I doing here? He doesn't even know. Who am I? What's my name? He doesn't know anything about himself anymore. So he looks around him, and he's actually in this, these ancient Amazonian tribes. And they took care of him. They found him, and they took care of him. So this boy has like severe amnesia. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he came from, what the hell he was doing there. So these Indians, these Amazon people, they take care of him. He's like, after a few months, he's complete part of the tribe. So they teach him how to hunt. They teach him how to chop wood and how to cook and, live this natural life. And he even falls in love with a tribe girl. And meanwhile, his dad is trying to find him. His son is lost, so he's putting everything together in order to find him. But months go by, but he can't. Until one day, a journalist comes to that tribe in order to make some television program. And he sees that boy. And then he goes to the boy and he says, I saw your head on the picture. We all thought you were kidnapped, you have to come back. Your dad is crazy about finding you and he's missing you so much and the whole world is looking for you. And his boy said, what? But I belong here. This is my family. I go out hunting and this is my job and I'm going to marry soon. And his journalist is like, no, wait. And he takes his phone and he's showing him, this is your house. This is your dad, your car. This is your car. Look. And this is what you did. And you were a very wealthy, business person. And then the boy slowly, something is triggered in him and he remembers things. And so, what do we learn from this story? We learn from this story that our identification that we have with the things we like, that the things we dislike, with our past, with who our relatives are, this determines what we think is good and bad, what we think is profit and loss, or what is success and failure. Because at first, this young business boy, he would think of success as, I closed this $1 million deal. But later, his success was that he could shoot 3 squirrels in one day. That was his ultimate success. At first, this young boy saw these tribes, protesting on the TV, and he say like, what are they saying? They have their land. Why do we always have to, nag? And when he was part of the tribe, he could see how this land of the tribe was slowly, retracting because of all the agriculture that they were doing. And suddenly he was like, oh, these bloody Americans, what are they doing with us? And blah, blah, blah. So at first he thought the tribe was complaining, and now he thought the Americans were stupid. So what we think is good and bad, what our opinions are based on, everything depends on what we identify with. Identification gives us value, gives us success, shows us what our pleasure is, what our desire is. But actually, if we look further, this identification is not real. Because there's something beyond that which we actually are. Because as we saw with the boy, these identifications, they can change. But who we really are in the core, that stays the same. So the biggest identifications that we have are, for instance, the identification we have with our own body. And you hear that a lot. You hear a lot in many spiritual talks. You are not the body. You're not the body. But what do we mean by that? Well, we can look at it different ways. We can look at it very, simply. If I cut off my arm, then a piece of my body is gone. But I didn't lose a piece of myself, right? Because I'm still me, with or without the arm. If I cut off also my 2 legs and my arm, then I'm still me. Of course, I go to some psychological distress, but I'm still me. If I become, bigger and bigger, and I eat a lot and I eat a lot and I become bigger, that doesn't mean that I'm now more of me than I was before. Or when I get very thin, it doesn't mean that I'm now lost pieces of myself. So what we say with this is that the sense of who you are, the sense of your deepest essence of yourself is beyond those changes of the body. If I look at a picture of myself as a baby, I don't look like that anymore. Or when I look at myself as a teenager, I'm not like that. But still I say, yes, that's me. Because what is that thing which stays the same or indicates that it's me, even though my body changes constantly? Like the body never stops changing. Every single second, your body is different. Blood is running somewhere different, energy exchange, cells being built, being broken down. Actually, every 7 years, your body is completely anew. But even though everything physically changed about me, there's still something which indicates that, no, I'm that same person. And next to that, you can also say, I don't really have so much control over this body. I don't know how it grows. I cannot make it grow. I mean, I can eat and make sure that in that way it grows, but I cannot say I want my legs to be longer. I want this cookie to go to my hips instead of, my belly. No, I have no control whatsoever over my body in that sense. And therefore, also, actually, I don't know what's going on inside of my intestines and my organs and my heart. Often I don't know. I just see the outside and I can work with it. I can move. But over these gross things and more subtle things, I don't have any control. So isn't it strange that something we don't have control over, we still think it's us? We still feel like, yeah, I have no control over it, but it's still me. Because who you are, you're supposed to have control over, right? Similarly, we see, for instance, the elements in nature. We see water, we see natrium or helium or all these things, or iron. And the same elements, they exist in our body. So the elements, when they are outside of our body, like iron, it can oxidate, right? And it comes rust. Or water, it goes by gravity, it goes from up to down. But water itself is not alive. Water just follows the laws of nature, but it's in a sense that material. It just follows the gravity and what's happening, and it evaporates when it gets hot, and it has its laws that it has to tend to. but it doesn't have its own like free will to do things. Similarly, iron, or natrium, every element in that sense. But in our body, why would it be different? The water is still running in a particular way. It doesn't have a free will, and every other element also doesn't have that. But still, I feel like I have a free will. I can make a choice. I can lift my arm, even though the water in my arm doesn't want to go there or whatever. So actually, in this sense, we experience that there's something beyond the body, which is us, something deeper. We use this body as a tool, as a sort of machine that we live by, but there's something deeper, which is the I. And you see this also, for instance, when you dream, and you dream that you're being chased by some villain. You still feel in the dream like it's so real, like you can hear him scream, you can, feel the heat, the sweat dropping off, you are talking, you have your body, but your own body is completely, still laying on the bed. So where does that take place? Or for instance, when people have a near-death experience, when they have no brain activity, but still they have experiences. Or when they have an out-of-body experience. So these are all indicators that there's something deeper than the body that is me. And then maybe we will say, okay, I'm not the body, but then I am the mind. I'm certainly my mind, because my mind, there are my thoughts, there are my feelings, there are my desires. And so that's me. But actually, if you look at it, what does the mind do? The mind, is busy with thoughts, with feeling, with desire, but it just, it has some experiences, like my body or my senses, they have experiences in this world. I hear things, I see things, then it sort of digests that and transforms it to a thought, because I'm going to interpret what I have seen. So what is the mind? The mind is sort of a fart of the brain, you can say. Like when I eat something bad, inevitably a fart is coming out. Similarly, when I get all these experiences and these impulses through my senses, inevitably a thought is going to come out of that. Because it's the interpretation that my mind makes on the senses. In that sense, if I'm not that body, and if I'm not only the impulses and all of that, the external machine, which we just talked about, then I'm also not the mind, because the mind is only concerned with interpreting these things that I've experienced in the outside world. Similarly, we can say, for instance, we have all tried to sit and meditate. And even if you sit and meditate for 10 minutes, then you see that your mind is completely out of control. You cannot think about nothing. You try to think about nothing, or you try to think om, or you try to think, okay, 1, 2, 3, but no, your mind is going to go to, I'm a little bit hungry, and shall I go to the shop and buy that pizza, or shall I just order that, or so your mind goes its own direction, and it's almost like you have no control over it. And again, something we don't have control over. Is that really me? Is that really who I am? And similarly, we can say, I can observe my thoughts. And that's strange, because there's distance between those two things. There's distance between me observing my thoughts, me and my thoughts. I can observe my thoughts. It means there is distance between the two. That means I am not my thoughts, but I am the one who's observing that and hearing my thoughts. So in that sense, then what is left? I'm not the body, I'm not the mind. Then what is left? Who am I? And the Vedic scriptures give us the answer. They say, you are the seer. You are the one who observes. You are what they call the Purusha or the Jiva, and what we translate as the soul. We are that deeper core beyond all these things. And that deeper core is the one who uses the tools of the mind, of the intelligence, of the body in order to express itself in this world. But I'm not those things. I'm the observer. I'm the one who uses these tools by the medium of consciousness. So they say the soul, or the seer, brings life to everything, brings life to that matter. Because we spoke already about all the elements in nature and that they're just following the patterns and they don't have a free will. Water cannot say, now I will roll up the hill. But we experience some sort of will in our own body. I can move my hand wherever I want to. I can speak whatever I want to. So it is this soul, is this jiva that is bringing awareness and consciousness and life towards that matter. And you see that also. What is the difference between someone who is about to die and someone who has died? Suddenly, something is gone and the body starts, deteriorating. And it starts going slowly towards destruction because there's nothing that keeps it alive anymore. But what is that thing which kept it alive? Actually, the difference between the two is just consciousness. And consciousness is only a symptom of the soul. We cannot say, okay, now I show you gravity. Look, here, I grabbed it and now I can give it to you. No, we show gravity by the symptoms of gravity. We drop something and then we see, there's gravity. Similarly, a symptom of the soul is consciousness, is life itself. So in this sense, there are some interesting aspects of what that means. What does it mean, this deep core, this seer, this observer, this soul? What is that? And we go much deeper into that concept in the next episode. So today we saw that we identify with so many things which actually have nothing to do with us. And the biggest identifications are the identification with the body and with the mind. But we are something beyond that. We are the spirit soul. And this is a topic we will go into the next podcast. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed and it was inspirational for you to gain some new perspective. And I hope to see you in the next one. Okay, Haribol.